quilting friends, I'm Edyta Sitar from Laundry Basket Quilts. Welcome to Quilting Window and welcome to our block of the month, Monarch. I am so excited that you join us in and want to do a little bit of applique. I hope you're going to spread your wings and fly right with it. Monarch is a beautiful butterfly design, and we're going to be making large butterfly, medium, and a small one. Every month you're going to receive enough fabric for a section of the quilt. With your first month you're going to receive a pattern. Please keep the pattern nice and safe because you're going to need this pattern for next 8 months as we are making our blocks. This is your first month. This is the first section, and there are 2 big butterflies in it. Now you will also receive a welcome letter and also a description of where each the sections of each month. We're gonna start right here and gonna keep going till we complete all 8 sections of the quilts. Sometimes you're gonna be making 2 big butterflies, sometimes medium and a small ones. It's gonna vary every month, but do not worry, I got you. Today we're gonna review all different applique techniques, and you're gonna be ready, set, go. And to make your life easier, we have also included in your block of the month stencils for small, medium, and large butterfly. With this stencil, you're gonna be able to draw your butterfly wings in no time. I'm super excited for you. I'm gonna keep the large one next to me because that's what we're gonna work today on it. And there is also in your package with the first month a little surprise, a little thank you coupon. Make sure you enjoy it and get some fun backings for your quilt. Now, let's review appliques. For this design, you can use hand, machine, or fusible applique. Let's go over all of them. I'm going to start with hand and machine, and then we're going to move on to fusible applique. I'm using a simple leaf design to go over the technique, and then we're going to be working on the butterfly quilt. Many times when I start a project, I like to refresh my technique, so you could use a simple shape, a square, leaf, or anything to just double check how your stitches are. Are you ready, set, go, and warm up? Or maybe you want to learn a new technique. When I do machine and hand applique, I use freezer paper, just regular freezer paper to trace my design to it and make my shapes. So right there, I traced my leaf right to it. Next, I'm gonna cut it exactly on the lines. So the next, after I cut it, I'm going to press it to the fabric. As soon as I press it to the fabric, I'm gonna cut out with 1/4 inch larger than the paper, so that way I can roll the edges. And I am so excited to share this with you and show you how I roll the edges. I'm gonna take that freezer paper off now. I'm gonna turn it shiny side up. When I was working on cutting just my shape, I had my shiny side down and the matte side up, but now I'm gonna turn it over just like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna use an iron, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick up the edges of my freezer paper, of my fabric, just that 1/8, the 1/4 inch right there, and I'm gonna start pushing it towards the leaf right here. Do you see what I'm doing? And iron just like that. So all my edges are beautifully turned over, and that way when I do machine or hand applique, all the edges are nicely turned, and all that I have to do is just stitch. Look at how beautiful this look. What a nice arch. To get a nice arch like this, make sure when you're cutting your templates, you cut nice smooth lines. I'm gonna turn this over to this side. I'm gonna again start from this corner, and this time I'm gonna go ahead, fold this to the seam, and then fold it over, okay? And if your hands or your fingers are a little bit too big, you can use a stiletto. I like using a stilettos. They always are so helpful. Look at this one, it's so nice. So you can go ahead and just pull those little edges just like this, yeah, and then go ahead and iron. I like doing a freezer paper shapes because it makes them nice and beautiful, and it's easy then to stitch. All right, my hands have done this quite a bit, but be careful not to put your fingers too close to the iron. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm using the edge of the iron to turn over, and look at, I'm coming to the point, and when I'm coming to the point, I want to make sure that I ensure that this and this is beautifully folded, so my corners are really nice and I get a great point. Now, if you could, don't go over here with your iron because you're gonna burn that little bit of this plastic that it's right here on the freezer paper, and this is important to have it because when you have a background, and let me get one of the backgrounds, when you have a background, you're gonna be able to put this over the background and iron it again, and it will stick to the background. If you need a little bit extra security, you can go ahead and use a glue or pins. I like using the glue because if I'm doing machine applique, I don't want the pins to be on my way. And I started on one of the pieces to do machine applique. Look at this. You cannot even see the stitch. I'm gonna flip it to this side and show it to you. I used 2370, this cotton thread from my bobbin, and I use this thread from our Perfect Blend from Wonderful, and this is the beige right here, and this one is Invisible. It's really nice thin thread. I use that on the top. I made a small zigzag. I adjust my stitches, lower down just tiny bit the tension, and I made a small zigzag. When I went with my zigzag, I tried to just put a stitch next to the edge and put a stitch right over the edge of my applique. Very small, beautiful stitch. With this 2370, now notice I did not match my thread to the background. I went a little bit darker. I like to match either to the background or go darker because I want to hide my stitches, and in case something gets pulled up, you don't want to have a too light of a thread because it's going to make little dots on the edges of your applique. So all that I did is I use a nice you can use a regular jean needle. Jean needle is a little bit thicker and make that stitch, or you can use just regular sharp needle. It's gonna work just fine, but just make sure you position yourself right on the edge. That's why it's nice to practice on a little leaf. But I can tell a lot of you girls and guys love to do hand applique. So what I do for my hand applique, I prep my shapes exactly the same way as we did for machine applique. All that I did is cut up my shell shape, roll the edges around the freezer paper, got them nicely stuck. If you need it, like I said, use tiny bit of a glue to make sure that those points are beautiful and they're sticking down. And all that I'm gonna do now is position this down, and I have a needle right here with a beautiful thread, and you can use either this beautiful 2370 thread, or you can use matching color threads from our English Garden box, and those threads are all the colors that you need. do have a beautiful project, or if you want to, you can use this thread as well. I like the cotton thread. My hands are older and I like to feel the thread and have a little bit more body to it. And all that I'm doing is I gently hold it and I just do a tiny little whip stitch where I grab a little bit of a background, very small, tiny little stitches, little bit of a background and a tiny little nibble on the edge, just like this, and look at with my finger right here, I'm pushing it down to make sure that I just get it like a little edge right there, just that edge. And all that I'm doing is just doing little whip stitches, just like slip stitch. I slip under and I slip through the edge of my applique. See, just this way. On the back, you're gonna see a tiny little line of tiny little stitches going this way. Using the 2370 works for me, especially for the English garden, that I don't have to switch the threads. If you worry about showing your colors, always grab the English garden matching colors because they're gonna be so beautiful and they're gonna hide really nice in that little edge right here when you're stitching. So when you stitch, you're gonna keep going this way. When you come to the point, remember to do at least 2-3 stitches on the point to make sure that you hold the points in place, because that is the place that most likely will pop up if you didn't stitch enough. So that would be for hand applique. My quilt behind me is done with Fusible applique, and that's the technique that I would love to share with you as well today. Fusible applique, it's quite popular and it's so nice because you can get it done really fast, okay? And what you're going to do is you're gonna start, I've moved all my pieces to the side. They're right here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna choose your fusible webbing, and there is such a nice variety of fusible webbing. We have steamer seam 2 light, we have lightweight heat and bound, we have misty fuse. There's so many different beautiful ones that you can find on our website. I chose a lightweight heat and bound package. I like this one, and I like the light because it's very delicate. It gives me the best edge, but it's really easy to stitch because it doesn't gook up my needle, and I really like that. So this one is gonna be the one I'm using it, and all that I'm gonna do is, again, I'm gonna trace my design into the fusible webbing, and this is the fusible webbing on this side, this is the paper side. Then the next thing, I'm gonna take a piece of fabric, place my design right over. If your design is not fitting this way, you can rotate it gently and fit any other way. The fusible webbing is gonna work as a stabilizer, and it's gonna hold everything in place. And first thing what I'm gonna do is just press. That's it. You do not wanna overpress. That's the magic with fusible webbings. The next thing what you're going to do is you're gonna cut, and you're gonna wanna make sure you cut right on a line, and you do nice, smooth, long, incredible cuts, nice cuts. You don't want to cut with the tip of your scissors, you want to cut with the pivot of your scissors, and I'm using those 5-inch gingham scissors. Now I'm going to turn around and cut. All right. For our project, for the butterflies, especially for the big one, I'm going to cut out the middle. So I'm going to show you one butterfly. We're going to make it together. This is just to review how we do fusible webbing. So once I cut it, I'm not going to finish this just so we move on. All that I'm going to do is take my background. I'm going to peel the paper away just this way. Very delicate because you want the fusible to stay on your shape, not go with your paper. That happens sometimes. I'm going to position my shape, and now all that I have to do is fuse it with my iron, just warm it up and it fuses right there. And then the next thing, I have to decide on my stitches. So let's decide on the stitches. I love doing this with you. One of my favorite stitches is going to be this thread on the top, a little bit bigger zigzag than for machine applique, just a little bit wider. You want to grab at least 1/8 of an inch, and we're gonna zigzag right around the edges, and we're gonna use this thread for a bobbin. You can use the Invisifill, but also if you wanted to, you can use invisible thread. That is this one is a nylon invisible, this is a polyester. So I like the polyester for this project. It's very soft edges. It's really, really nice. I highly recommend. If you wanted to, and that's what I recommend for this butterfly, I would use beautiful decorative threads and do a little blanket stitch. Oh, let me show you the size of the zigzag before we go. Look at the zigzag. I always, when I do this, I'm gonna start someplace on the edge. I'm not gonna start on a point. I'm gonna start on the edge. I'm gonna stitch, stitch, overlap, and then all that I'm gonna do is pull those threads to the back. You do not want to just clip them. You want to pull them to the back and leave them in the back. If you want it, you can weave them into the back of the stitches. Now, in this case, right here, I'm doing a blanket stitch. In this case, because I'm doing a decorative stitch, I'm going to start at the point because I don't want to overlap them. Here on the zigzag, I overlap for more security. And here I'm going to start on a point. I'm going to stitch around. I'm using a beautiful blanket stitch, the same 2370, but this time I went and matched my threads into my beautiful piece, and in this case this was blue. I had a lovely blue that looked really nice on the edges, and my recommendation, notice when you put the spool, it's a good match, but it's the best way to open it and just put one thread over, and then you can see, does it have enough color, does it hold really nicely that edge, and it's gonna have a nice little detail because you don't want to blend it, you want to complement it. So I like to match it up really nice, and like I said, the English Garden box has a gorgeous selection of all beautiful threads. Now once you finish stitching, again you're gonna pull from the back, you're gonna pull the threads from the top and just tuck them into the stitch. Now if you wanted to, you can do the same Fusible applique third different way, and this time no zigzag, no blanket. All that you're gonna do is just top stitch, and you're gonna stay 1/8 away from the edge, and this calls Fusible raw edge applique. So we have a Fusible raw edge or Fusible finish edge where we use the blanket or the zigzag stitch. I highly recommend take a moment, make some samples, and try it, and try your stitches. And what I like to do is I make my samples, and right here I would write tension, what size of a zigzag or straight stitch I use, a blanket stitch, what color thread. Just write on it and save this for yourself, because when it's gonna come every month, you're gonna want to set up your machine, and then you're gonna forget what stitches you use on your first blocks comparing to your second, third, fourth, fifth. So having those settings, practice a little bit, and then having this information will set you on success, and every month you're gonna make beautiful blocks. So let's make one beautiful butterfly block together. As I told you, I'm going to be using a Fusible applique technique to make my butterflies. I'm using stencils. I place my stencil right over my Fusible webbing. The paper side, this is the other side, and I'm gonna go ahead and draw. I'm gonna move on to here because I don't want to draw on my wool mat. It's not gonna allow me. All that I do is position my shape, and the stencil is gonna be so nice for you because you don't have to trace. You just go ahead. Let me turn this off. You just go ahead and just put your pencil right into the holes and draw. Look how quickly I can draw, and I can visit with you, and every butterfly wing going to be just beautiful and perfect. Now, since this infusible applique, you have to reverse your design. You do not have to worry about much reversing, because all that you have to do is draw this, flip it over, and draw, and you already reverse. So this is how quickly you reverse the design, by just flipping the stencil over. Now you have a left and a right wing. All that you're gonna do is cut them apart and prepare them for our next step, what it's fusing to the fabric. I don't like waste, so I'm cutting close, just about like a 1/8 to a 1/4 inch rough cut around it. This is gonna just be thrown away, and then I want to make sure that I have my fusible only on the edges. So what I'm gonna do is, they call this window my applique. I'm gonna take this fusible webbing out of the middle of the wings, so my wings are nice and soft. My fusible webbing is working as my stabilizer, just to hold the edges in place as I stitch around it. So look at this. All that you're gonna do is just cut the centers out. Make sure though you leave it enough that your shapes have enough fusible to get stuck in place. Then the next thing, and I'm gonna do this to all my shape, my top wings, my bottom wings, my body. The next thing that we're gonna do is go ahead and press our fabric, beautifully press, and then press our wings shapes, the fusible shapes, into our fabric. You can fussy if you wanna. You're getting a nice amount of fabric, noticed, so you can go anywhere you want to, grab whichever flowers you like or whichever designs. Just fit your shapes really nice. I have this one to finish, so let me do it with you. Okay, I have the top wings, and for example, for my top wing, I already did one. I waited for you to do the second one. This one is fun because it has those beautiful lines. So if I have my lines going this way on one wing, I want to do a mirror image to do that for the other one. Sometimes you can go scrappy. It doesn't have to be perfectly. When you grab a butterfly, when you find a butterfly, sometimes they're not perfectly symmetrical. They're just beautiful and colorful. So don't stress over. So look at it. Once I find a spot I want it, I'm gonna place my shape, and now I'm gonna iron it. It's very important that you gently iron, and you keep the iron from the top and from the top and from the top and from the top. You don't want to slide too much, because you don't want to accidentally move it and get a crinkle in one of the edges. Be very careful. This is the time that you don't want to also overpress. You just want to stick the paper to the fabric and release the fusible webbing. You don't want to press it so hard that the fusible webbing melts right too. That is the biggest mistake that we do when we do this. Now our body for the butterfly, we're gonna press our fabric. I'm not gonna cut out the middle of the body. I want that little bit of a stiffness to hold everything nicely in place. And I'm using lightweight heat and bounce, so it's gonna be nice and simple. And I'm gonna place it on an angle and beautifully fuse it. Done. I'm gonna lay it to the side to cool it off. When it cools off, it's easier to cut it. I have moved my scissors someplace. Let me see that yes, of course, I hide them right here. So now I'm gonna use my scissors, and I'm using the 5-inch gingham scissors, and I'm gonna cut out my pieces first I cut a rough cut just to have one piece at a time. This is important that you make beautiful cuts. And now I'm gonna be cutting right on a line and make beautiful cuts to create a lovely shape just like this. All right. Oh, this is so much fun. I hope you enjoy it. Take your time and don't rush. And I hope you take the time to practice all different appliques and choose your favorite one, because you have to commit to 8 months. But guess what? If you wanted to do one applique by hand and another one with Fusible, it's your quilt. You can do whatever you would like. I'm gonna keep it all at Fusible because I wanted to get it done nice and quick, and I really love those English garden threads, and I want to use some of those with my beautiful shapes. And I love this little bit brighter, happier blue. Those are still in their plastic packaging. I'm so excited to take them home and open them up. But once you have your shape cut out, then all that we have to do, let me move this to the side, is get our background. Right there, we're gonna cut our background. All the measurements are in the pattern. Yes, and I like to fold my background in half. Okay, find the middle. Actually, I should have pressed it before a little bit better because I had a little crinkle right there. So let's press it. That's fine, beautiful. I still can see the line, but if you cannot, now it's the time to just make a low line. I want a middle of the block, and I want a middle this way, just so I see where to position my pieces. This gives me a really nice center of the block. And what I'm going to do is now I'm gonna place my butterfly wings just this way. Oh, that's gonna be so lovely. And first lay out my block. I just want to see how it looks, okay? Just before I peel this paper away, I want to see how it looks, how it positioned, and I look for the how much boundaries I have on the top sides, that it's nice and even, and bottom there is not a layout. And guess what, when some wings are a little spread more than the other, it's okay. It's your butterfly. That not every butterfly is exactly the same than another. You can look at the layout, you can look at the cover for position, but basically all that I do is I make an X and I try to be right there in the center, and I pay attention that the spacing, especially for my top wings, it's nice, and it should match top and the bottom right here. Okay, so that way you know you have it center really nice. This looks great. Now notice I didn't put my body yet. It looks beautiful in the center, but I'm gonna keep my body to the side because I'm gonna give you a great tip. You're gonna love me for this one. First of all, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna gently peel the paper away. Do you see? I'm gently peeling away. I'm only doing one shape at a time, and I'm placing my pieces right here back where it was. Okay, then another one, but I already am excited about stitching, and what I like to do is I like to put my wings first on, okay, onto my background, stitch. Yes, isn't that a great idea? We're gonna place those wings down. We're gonna iron them in place. Go ahead, use our favorite technique for stitching. If you're using zigzag or blanket, then put the body and then stitch around the body, because when you changing color threads and you coming back to this point, you want to maybe cover it up with the body. If you don't want to do that, that's okay, no problem. You can go ahead, put all your pieces down and then stitch around, but please be nice and careful that when you start and finish stitching, you hide those beautiful threads so you don't have any threads sitting on the top. So what I would do is I would place my butterfly this way, and did you notice I put the stripe a little bit on an angle? I'm really happy how it came out. So everything looks great. My butterfly looks nice and center. I really like her. I maybe put her a little bit lower down. I think I could use a little bit more down here. Do you see? I take my time. I don't rush, because once you put it in place, it's done. For everybody that do hand applique, you would be doing the same thing. You're gonna position your wings, you pin them, you applique one wing at a time, but you want to position all of them to see where they're going, and then you can start hand appliquing or machine appliquing. And all that I have to do, because I'm doing fusible, whoops, hold on one second, I wasn't holding this nicely in place. So see, it happened and my iron got cold. So what I needed is turn my iron back on and just wait a second, because we want to make sure that we're gonna go ahead and press this with nice heat and then fuse it nicely in place. I love doing this. This is so nice. Look at this. Oh, it's so nice. And now we can put a little bit extra heat to it. A little bit extra, so you can stay a little bit longer. Not like the first time. We didn't want to put too much heat to it because we did not want to overpress. I really like that. So nice and warm. And now we're gonna fuse this in place and go for the top wings. I'm being very gentle because I don't want to accidentally go under my wing and pick it up. I'm giving enough heat to press it in place and not overpress, of course, but just so it stays. I have to move over to those areas, and then I'm gonna move. My butterfly is bigger than my ironing board, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna start in the center, and I'm just gonna move myself to the edges. This is wonderful. Wow, what a beautiful project, and I really like the iron. I don't like it when it's too hot and it presses so fast you don't even get a chance to do anything, and that way, and the fusible just melts away. Here everything is nicely done. I'm gonna now finish the tips of the wings because I know I didn't press them. You can tell this right here. So I want to finish it up, and once it's fused in place, it's ready for stitching. And like I said, if you would like to wait patiently with your body, now stitch around the edges, zigzag, blanket stitch, or straight stitch, and then go ahead and take your body and put over the center just like this, and take the paper off and press it. I have my block ready for you guys to enjoy and to see it. Look at how beautiful it came out. But we are not done yet, because guess what? There is one more thing that I need you to do on your butterfly. There's little antennas right here. My block, I did the blanket stitch, and I used this beautiful blue over here, and I used this dark gray down here. In your box, you have this gray right here. It is so nice. A lot of my friends love this for hand, machine, and fusible. My friend Debbie just loves to stitch around it with this. And then I also stitch around the center. Now, we need low antennas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the directions in the pattern, give you a simple direction for slip stitch. And all that I'm gonna to do is draw my antennas. I'm gonna use this pencil, it's easier. I just need a low line to tell me where to stitch, okay? Just like that. And guess what? If you don't like hand embroidery, you can go ahead and just draw your antennas. Draw it with a fabric marker. But I love hand embroidery. And we have an English garden embroidered threads. They are so beautiful, guys. I just love them. Look at this beautiful embroidered threads. They're gonna go great with the English Garden collection. And what I did is I took already a little like it's a dark cocoa gray brown kind of color, and I have 2 strings of the thread. I'm gonna make a little knot right there in the bottom, and I'm gonna go ahead and embroider my little antennas. So right there, I'm gonna come from the bottom and I'm gonna make a first little stitch, and all that I'm doing is just a little chain stitch, little stem stitch. I'm sorry, stem. Chain is different. This is just a stem, so I just make a stitch and then another one, just a tiny bit, just to give a little line. I love this little hand stitching to add a little detail to it. In the end of the antenna, I don't know if I can get to it right now. You would have to wait for a little bit. I'm a little slow in stitching. When you come to this end right here on the antenna, I like to do like 3, one over the other. I have a little sample right here, so you're gonna have just a stem stitch and just do like 3, one over another, just to give a little bit more body on the ends if you would like. So no matter what applique you choose, hand, machine, or fusible applique, you want to go ahead and embroider your little antennas. I love doing that. This is going to be such a fun little touch to your butterfly. Once your block is finished, all that you have to do, keep making your blocks, and in the end, you're going to have a beautiful quilt, and then you're going to put all your blocks together for the quilt. Now, if you have done machine applique or fusible applique, once you finish stitching your antennas, you have to remember to remove the freezer paper from the back of your blocks. And how do I do that? I go ahead and I make a very simple little cut. You want to pull it a little bit apart, and you want to grab this scissor. Yeah, I got it. This is great. And all that I'm gonna do is just make a little slit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and with my fingers gently pull that freezer paper, because I don't want to keep it inside here. You want to remove the freezer paper, and then you can iron your blocks. Oh, this one just broke. I'm gonna have to pull that little tiny bit later on, but once you remove the freezer paper, you can go ahead, press it on this side, and it's ready, set, go. I love doing that. Now, I don't cut my background away completely. I don't like doing that because many times when I do applique, I worry about then the blocks. Once I put it on my long arm machine for quilting, it's gonna stretch funny. So don't cut out completely the background from the back of your butterflies if you have done the hand or machine applique. That's my recommendation for you. I better go ahead and move that little paper out, a little tweezers, and I'm good to go. But no matter what, you're gonna have a gorgeous applique. Enjoy yourself, make sure you have fun, and thank you so much for joining us this year for our Monarch block of the month. And please remember, give us thumbs up, watch our videos, send it to your friends, share it with your friends, and come back for another wonderful project with Laundry Basket Quilts. Happy quilting!